Hey everybody, how you doing? We're fine here. We haven't had any technical problems whatsoever. It's all going smoothly well. And I should start flashing again soon. That's good on YouTube. Anyway, we're live. Welcome to the newly named STA Clinician Podcast, formerly known for the last 5 years as the Sports Therapy Association Podcast. My name is Matt Phillips, and I'm creator of RunChatLive.com. And as always, this episode is being recorded live on the Sports Therapy Association YouTube channel and Facebook page on a Tuesday night at 8 o'clock. You join us for part 3 of our Neurodivergence in Healthcare series in January 2026, with the goal of providing valuable information to help soft tissue therapists work closer and more effectively with neurodivergent patients and clients, and also provide suggestions for neurodivergent therapists on how to monitor and care for your good selves. Right then, so in this episode entitled Barriers, we're going to be looking at the barriers that neurodivergent patients and clients so often find themselves up against when seeking healthcare, which typically reduce their access to effective or suitable healthcare. I'm going to be joined very shortly by my very special guests, my very patient special guests, James Dewar Haggett, founder of Strong Path, neuro-inclusive and mental health informed sports coaching, website strongpath.org.uk, and also the lovely Leslie Campbell, a massage therapist and tutor, based in Glasgow, Scotland, website lesliecampbellmassage.co.uk. Firstly, before we jump into that, a huge thanks to my guests in part 2 last week in episode 269, which was entitled Hypermobility and Neurodivergence, namely Bonnie Southgate, MSK advisor at 𝐓𝐡𝐞 𝐒𝐤𝐢𝐳, advanced clinical massage therapist at 𝐸's Therapies, and Rosie Sexton, osteopath at Alton Health and Performance. It was, as always, I always say this, but it was a really amazing episode, hugely informative, that looked at the current research, which links hypermobility and neurodivergence. It considered the diagnostic challenges, individualized treatment strategies, patient experiences of invalidation, how to dose exercise safely. So much information and tweaks which you, the clinician, can make to help listen, identify, modify treatment, and refer to specialists where necessary. So that's episode 269 of the STA Clinician Podcast, available now on all popular platforms and on YouTube. And just before we bring up tonight's guest, if you do identify as a neurodivergent therapist, whether through formal diagnosis or not, then you are very welcome to join our new private Facebook group, Neurodivergent MSK Clinicians, which is a safe, non-judgmental space to share, support, chat, or just listen. Search us up on Facebook and you will find us. Please remember to answer the group questions when you ask to join. Right then, here we go. 5 minutes ago, we thought this was never going to start. It's episode 270 of the STA Clinician Podcast, Neurodivergence in Healthcare Part 3, Barriers, with special guests James Dewar Haggett and Leslie Campbell. I shall now bring them up. Deep breaths, guys. How are we all? Yeah. We're Bungo, George, and Zippy. We're fine. Everything's great.
Yeah, it's not the absolute perfect start to this.
Am I still crackly?
Yeah.
Okay. Those who joined us live, I mean, you're still on the same number, so you haven't given up yet. I don't know what's happening at my end. It's not even in my head as per normal. It's actually, I can see it now. I'm flashing. I've got static. I don't know what's going on. It's like my insides are now on the outside. But anyway, we're here. And before we start, actually, a barrier that I need to sort out straight away, because it was mentioned in a few emails and even a conversation with Leslie about last week's show. It was pointed out how, now if you listen to the podcast, this will mean nothing to you, so you might want to fast forward about 4 minutes, but it's pointed out how this animated falling diamond background behind me, which you can see if you joined us live, can be very distracting for some neurodivergent individuals and lead to visual sensory overload. It's something we talked about as well, Leslie, wasn't it? Mm-hmm. The diamonds weren't such a thing for you, were they? It was more the kind of ticker tape banner at the bottom, which kind of...
With the comment, that, and the ticker tape now is taking my eye, and then the comments, when the comments pop up, I start reading the comments and then forget to listen to what anybody's saying, and then I go, oh, comment, listen, no, comment, listen, no, and the comments. If it was just us three, we'd have a nice chat. There'd be no comments, but we want people to comment, so I'll try not to do it too often. But there's some things I can do. But I just want to thank particularly the people who write in, but particularly Gillian Lorraine, with whom I exchanged really few insightful emails. And we just chatted about how, for example, my neurodivergency, whatever it is, it doesn't freak me out with. I'm not bothered by the background. In fact, I find it quite warm and soothing. I'm sorry, Leslie, but I do like it. In fact, I think it keeps me concentrating. But
I mean, bright noise, smell, texture, all that sort of jazz. Yeah, I'm a nightmare to take out. Absolute nightmare. But this is not all about me. So the first thing we're going to do is I'm going to say adios to the diamonds.
Hey.
Now, I do get the piece, you know. It was only when it's pointed out, but I can kind of identify with the piece. Is it, James, for you visually, does it make much difference?
Actually, yeah, it does. I find it a lot more relaxing.
It was, wasn't it? Let's just go back a second for those on YouTube.
I didn't find that. I didn't find that relaxing.
Yeah.
Okay, and for Leslie as well, because we love you, we will say adios to the horrible little band at the bottom. Look at that.
Ooh.
Still.
Sorry.
Apologise, woman. It's great. Okay,
I'm
so we're here.
Taylor Swift. I came with a rider of don't do this, don't have this, do that, and then it was you that had the meltdown in the line.
I did not have a meltdown. Come on, keep it professional. What happens off screens, this Fight Club. Anyway, we're here and we're really grateful for those of you who joined us live. If you do have any questions or want to share any comments, then do so. I will bring them up now and again, maybe not so often as normal, but I'm just going to bring a few up now. So Leslie, just close your eyes. I'll wake you up in 2 minutes, okay? Imi, the great Imi is here, and she says, I'm listening on my drive home as usual. Such a great series so far. No pressure. Yeah, it's all going downhill from now. But thanks, Imi. I think we peaked last week, but here we go. Sarah Jones says, ready to go. Evening, everybody. Cecily is here as well. This is just doing Leslie in completely. I'm listening at my jigsaw puzzle. I'm such a saddo.
Oh, I'm so jealous.
At her jigsaw puzzle. Danny Hall, 55. I'm just dropping in for the first time. Good. Thanks for joining us, Danny. I've caught up with the previous episodes. A great and useful listen so far. Fantastic. Gary Benson, founder of the STA, is in here. Says, evening all. I'm looking out for the Northern Lights whilst listening in. Can you notice a certain level of intellectual kind of... We've got people doing jigsaws, looking out for Northern Lights. It's amazing. I love the crowd which we drag in here. Nikki, talking of intellect, Nikki Mansfield is here as well, saying, evening, wonderful humans. Sir Glenn Murphy, thank you, sir, joining us. Much appreciated. And loads more people. I'm not going to bring you all up because I'm just freaking Leslie out and I need her for another 55 minutes. So thank you so much for joining us all, everybody. Really appreciate it. If you have got questions and you want to leave it in the comments, then please do so. Bear in mind that because of the topics and things you might want to share, this does go out on YouTube and Facebook and is recorded. So if you do fancy asking a question or sharing something but remaining anonymous, then you'll see in the screen there's a QR code there which you can scan. And that'll take you to Slido and you can ask an anonymous question, just in case you want to share something which you don't want people all over YouTube and Facebook to know about. But that's totally up to you. We just like giving you that offer. Right then, let's start then, shall we? For people who don't know you guys, which I'm hoping a lot of our listeners don't know you, James and Leslie, otherwise it's just a total waste of time. Could you introduce yourself? James, maybe first of all, a little bit about where you are, what you do, where you are in the country, etc.
Yeah, so my name's James, 43. I think then. It's all the stuff that's come on before. I'm just sitting there going, my brain's scrambled.
I've just asked you because I need a rest. That's purely selfish reasons.
Dude, I've got it. So yeah, my name's James. I am. So I used to be, maybe still am, a personal trainer or and a soft tissue therapist. More recently, over the last few years, I've a bit like Matt. I write accredited courses, and I wrote with at Autism and a lovely lady called Dr. Ruth Moyes. I wrote the first accredited sports coaching course to work with autistic people in the UK, and that was accredited by SimSmart. I also work with the NHS and have run projects with things like the EIP, so early intervention for psychosis. Work on studies, real bit of a real mixed bag, I suppose. You know, there's that magpie in me, which I'm sure a lot of people can connect with. So yeah, lots of different projects all the time.
Amazing. Really appreciate the time you're giving us, James. Thank you very much. And Leslie, for people who don't know you, for the few people on the planet who have not marvelled at your antics, tell us about you, Leslie.
So I'm a massage therapist. And I started really exploring my ADHD a few years ago, which led me to applying for access to work. So that's my first nugget. If anybody on here is neurodivergent or has a client who has disclosed they've got neurodivergency and they're struggling at work, you can apply for funding and assistance from Access to Work. And actually the form is really straightforward, and you can apply whether you're diagnosed or not diagnosed. And I was lucky enough to be ballsy enough to keep pushing that I got awarded some funding, and I ended up with an ADHD business coach, which is way more than just business coaching. And over my conversations with my coach from Access to Work, I realised that probably a diagnosis was going to be really quite positive for me. So at the grand old age of 56, Jesus, I'm 56. At the grand old age of 56, I got diagnosed last year with ADHD. And that's the other thing that I would add, that my menopause made my ADHD symptoms go tonto. And the ADHD diagnosis has been really important for me. I didn't really realise how important it was going to be until I got it. And now I feel much more confident about advocating for myself in different situations and all sorts of situations. Now that I can say I've actually got ADHD, rather than, well, I might have ADHD. And so I find it much easier to advocate for myself. So that's me. And I have been regulating my nervous system all day because of this has been on. And until you started at 7:45, and then...
I totally relaxed you, didn't I? Yeah, that's what I do. That's what I do. I am the relaxer. Thank you, Leslie. Amazing.
So that's me.
I must apologise for a few people are saying it's a bit crackly, and I'm doing I like talk about showing your age. Max headroom. Yeah, max headroom. I'm doing a little bit of that as well. I don't know why. It's just all. I'm not going to even go about the week I've had, but it's just fitting. It's a fitting end to a fitting week. But anyway, we're fine. We're all together, and we're going to delve into a really interesting topic tonight. So thanks, guys, for joining us. Like I said, if you've got questions, people, and you want to share stuff, then please do so. That'd be great. So barriers then. See what I mean? Can you hear that, or is it just me?
No, I can hear it.
I've got like a washing machine sound just going through my earphones now. Can you not hear that?
No, it's not as bad as it was when we were waiting downstairs.
It was really bad.
It was really bad. You were totally sending the neurodivergence off the scale.
The green room was not. The green room.
It was not green. It was coloured. Sorry. Carry on, Matt. I think it's all right, darling. Oh no.
No.
That's not okay. That's okay. We can't hear you. We can't hear that fuzzy.
Right.
I
don't know if you can hear me. Can you hear me?
Yeah. It's a little bit tinny.
Oh, I can't hear you at the moment. That's what it is.
It's a bit tinny, but it's better. You can't hear me. You just said that, and then I literally said that.
James, do you think this is deregulating us because we're having to body double being right. For him?
I have no idea.
Okay. Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Hear me now? Yeah, we can.
Yeah. I'll edit this from the podcast. This is going to be, stick with me, you two people, please. If I've ever meant anything to you at all, I need you more than ever.
Emotional blackmail.
Yeah, I know, a little bit of that. I'm a master of that. I've had it all my life. Anyway, so yeah, my headphones have just put me in the middle of a tumble dryer. But anyway, this seems to be okay now. We are talking about barriers. I thought maybe we talked about communication already. It's come up in the first and second episodes. So I wonder whether you guys have anything to add about communication that we haven't talked about already, because obviously that is probably one of the initial barriers when it comes to either emailing initially or when the person comes into the clinic. What would you like to share?
You go, James. I spoke last.
Oh, okay. Sorry, I thought he was talking to the panel. He said the panel, and they go, "Oh, awesome! Someone's going to ask a question," and now I'm being clearly not very observant of me and staring into space because I don't really know what's going on. And then, so I suppose we're talking about communication.
Yes.
So in terms of communication, I think that the biggest issue is probably something that's known as the double empathy problem. So a wonderful scientist called Damian Milton did a study years ago. I want to quickly just point this out because I think a lot of people will really appreciate this. I watched Damian Milton speak at a conference, and he very, very briefly said that his PhD, he actually disseminated South Park characters as his PhD. And as soon as I heard that he had taken South Park characters and looked at their characteristics and all these things, I immediately fell in love with him. I was like, that is the coolest PhD I think I've ever heard of. My wife's done one, other than my wife's. All right, so before I get into trouble. But I just sat down and thought, I would love to read that. And so it's a really, really cool guy. But he looked at communication, and within that is he got groups of autistic people, and he got groups of neurotypical people, and a bit like Chinese whispers, as far as I know, I'm probably not doing it justice, and I'm sorry if I'm not. But they were asked to communicate, and they were asked to communicate certain things between the group. And the autistic people, they were great, they were amazing, they did awesome, and then the neurotypical people, guess what? They were great, they were awesome. And then they mixed the groups, all right, so that you had a mixture of neurotypical and autistic people, and suddenly there was an issue. There was a communication barrier there straight away. Now, whilst I would say that it isn't the neurotypical people's fault, and I'm going to say it's not the autistic people's fault, because there's no malice there. There's no one's trying to actively not not communicate. There was clearly an issue where we communicate slightly differently. Now, if you can consider that 75% of the population are neurotypical, 10% potentially, we don't know the real figures, but if Lorna Wing's right, is autistic, we suddenly see that if you're a person who can't, on 90% of your experiences are coming when people don't understand what you're saying, or can't comprehend things, that's a big barrier.
Leslie, do you want to add to that?
No, this the double thingy theory is actually quite new to me. So it's not something that I'm particularly well versed in. But I mean, I can see that I do gravitate towards other neurodivergent people. I do tend to gel with them, with other neurodivergence easier, I think.
Yeah, I think it's a common theme, and we're finding that in the Facebook group. But it's tricky, I think, because I mean, the idea of this series is to help. I suppose I don't like making it like an us and them camp sort of thing, but for somebody who is neurotypical, okay, it's like a whole nother ball game of that you just don't know the rules of, and it's just useful understanding that. It's a bit like, and I don't want to say Men from Mars and Women from Venus because that's like a really old book, but it's just a bit like if you really want to be able to talk to somebody, then you need to know what language they speak. Otherwise, straight away, you haven't got that way of conversing with them. So I think a useful tip for clinicians out there who really are confused by this whole neurodiversity thing is just realize there is another language, and you're going to have to do a little bit of studying.
I think there's an important thing to say about this as well, though, and that is that in my experience, and I think this is really, really key, that whilst there is differences in communication, and we are still speaking the same language.
Yeah.
Right? So those differences are minor. If you know that there are differences, which is the most important thing there. But I would also really like to stipulate that actually not feeling guilty and putting blame on either party is really important. And you did start with that, Matt, and I appreciate that you did. But I think that it's really important that, one of the things I see a lot is that actually neurotypical people want to help and they want to work with neurodivergent people, and in particular autism in this case. But actually they don't know how to do it appropriately and positively. And when in that situation, that can be something that's quite daunting and probably quite nerve-wracking. And actually one of the best things to do is just to ask the other person, just sit there and say to them, what do you need? And actually allow them to, the person with the lived experience of what we're talking about in the minority, fill that person in and just listen to what they're saying and try and facilitate what they're saying. And if you do that, I'm certain that the person, if they see you making an effort, even if you get it wrong, they're still going to really appreciate the fact that you made the effort in the first place.
Yeah. I think that rolls into safety as well, because so in clinic, I think if you make people feel safe, particularly when you're neurodivergent, if you feel safe in an environment, you can relax and I feel like you'll get the best. And so with that, one of the things that I do is that I have an optional box tick that goes out with my online form before they come and see me. And they can choose to or not choose to disclose whether they're diagnosed or not. And I've had quite a few folk will tick the box and say, yeah, we're neurodivergent, which then immediately made me get back to them by email. Don't phone them. I immediately go back to them by email and said, okay, that's great. Is there anything else that I can do to make your visit easier? One woman was like, I'm really noisies, so she didn't want music at all. Another woman wanted a really unusual type of music. But by starting that conversation, it made them feel immediately safe when they came, and they then knew that they didn't have to do any masking. And so when I was asking questions, they didn't feel, uncomfortable about it.
I think that's really interesting, and it takes me back, and I haven't thought about this for quite a while, but I don't know, it was like a couple of years ago, but I was driving the car and I was listening to Radio 5, I think, like BBC Radio 5, and I think it was Jeremy Vine, and they were talking about the fact that, well, they were celebrating, actually, you know what, right, let's give them kudos for it, that a hairdresser had set up a sessions where you could say to the hairdresser on booking whether or not you wanted to be spoken to or whether or not you didn't. And I sat and I went, that's really cool. I don't like small talk, if I'm honest. I don't feel comfortable doing it. I feel like I'm masking. I feel like that it's taking my energy. And actually, if you're busy or you're not, you don't have that energy at that point in time to be able to disperse to that situation. The thing that really kind of surprised me was the amount of people that came along and went, hairdressing, it's all about talking to your hairdresser. It's all about this and that and the other. And I sat and I went, well, it might be for you, but I'd much rather just sit there and get my hair cut and leave from there. And it was quite interesting, the kind of 50-50 in terms of people saying they wanted it and they didn't want it, but it's about having that choice of, it's that equity. I suppose that is equity, isn't it? It's choosing whether or not you want something, or whether that's right for you as a person.
Yeah, and that's the other thing as well. I mean, I do this for anybody, no matter how they describe themselves, is explaining every single. I try not to make it long-winded, but describing everything in the consultation form that I'm going to do once they're on the table. I'll say, I'm going to start with you in this position, in that position. We might go to that position. Where do you want me to touch you? Where can I not touch you? But this is also kind of trauma-based stuff as well. So it's really, carry on, James. I
would argue, though, that, and I think it's amazing that you do that. I'm not surprised you do that at all, actually, knowing you. But I'd be surprised if you didn't do that, I think, actually, more importantly. I'm worried that if not everyone is doing that, why wouldn't you tell someone what you were doing before that you're going to do it? Because let's face it, and I think you hit the nail on the head, people have traumatic experiences. You don't know what that person's experienced in front of you. Why can't you tell them what you're about to do? Why can't you inform them and give them a choice in what? Otherwise, it's... I mean, think about it from a perspective. I don't take away neurodivergence in this, but just think about it from everybody's perspective.
Yeah.
If someone starts doing something to you, you don't know what's about to happen, and there's a sensation from it. Well, even if it's good, I mean, that could be bad, and if it's bad, it could be bad. Do you know what I mean? Like informing someone and giving them the right to consent and the right to understand what is happening to their body when you're doing it to them. That, in my opinion, is very basic. That should be the basic, stuff.
Yeah. That's what I'm saying. So I do it with everybody, regardless. And I, as I have just started teaching, I've only just started, but I'm, drilling it into them. And even if somebody is polite, I'll always try, and this is something like with Matt, his experienced as well with motivational interviewing, it's trying to not ask yes/no questions.
Yep.
And that particularly feeds back into the client feedback loop as well. But that's what I do that with everybody. Have you got any other stuff you want to put in there, Matt?
No, it's lovely listening to you too. It's really nice. It's really context based. I think we're jumping straight in there with some really important points. I really like the point, and I was thinking in my head, this whole series has had this common theme of, we're talking about how to look after the neurodivergent patient or client, but ultimately, all of these things are just going to make you a better therapist for anybody, whether they're neurodivergent or typical or whatever. They're just a human being, because you're going to take into account that there might be something you're not used to. There might be something different. There might have been some way you can better look after them by simply talking to them. So it's really nice to hear it.
Interestingly, just to end that point, my wife said something. So my wife's a researcher within women's health. Hence why I'm an absolute feminist, absolute humanist, and I hear lots of stuff that I'm really fortunate to hear as a man. Like I'm fortunate to hear that stuff. But we were talking the other day about cervical smears, and we were talking about the fact that some people don't. There are certain people that have said, "Can I do it myself?" As in, insert the. I'm sorry, Leslie, you might know, but I don't. It begins with an S. I've forgotten the name. Yeah, and they've said that, "Can I insert that myself?" And that there are actually problems potentially with people don't necessarily want that person or want that question. It's like, that's bizarre to me. Like, why would you have a problem with someone doing something for themselves because that makes them feel comfortable that they're doing something extremely intimate? And with sports, with sports like soft tissue therapy, physiotherapy, with so many different clinicians, you're doing something that is intimate to the body. Someone should absolutely have the autonomy about what you do or do not do, and the understanding before you do it.
Yeah, and I think one of the other things that I do as well, just from other therapists' point of view, neurodivergent people can have very busy brains. I think everybody would agree with that. Our brains tend to be thinking about a million different things, and you can go for a massage thinking, that's it, I'm going to go and chill out, I'm going to go and relax, I'm going to go and chill out, and then you get on the bed or table, whatever you want to call it, couch, and you're trying not to think about your lists, and all of a sudden the lists come in. And then, so what I started doing, if I kind of recognise that, I will say, how's your brain doing? Is your brain switching off? And I will ask everybody this. Is your brain switching off? How are you doing? And if they say, oh, I'm kind of struggling, and I'll say, okay, do you want me to help you a little bit? Like, but ask them permission, do you want me to help you a little bit? And all I do is just like for a minute of the session or whatever, I'll just dip it in and out every so often. But I don't, it's more a touching base with their body. I don't go into meditation mountain. I don't go into meditation because I as a neurodivergent, for me, if somebody talks about meditation, I want to run out the room. So I talk about relaxing parts of the body, and I just do it really in my Glaswegian accent, just go through parts of the body, just letting this bit go, let that bit go, have a Buddha belly, let your pelvis go. I'm speeding it up. And I've had so many people then say, you body doubling me while I'm on the table really helped me to relax into it.
The funny thing is we talk about this, and we talk about this within a neurodivergent kind of field. There's a word, and this word, I'm dyslexic, by the way, ADHD, I think autism, so AUDHD, dyscalculus, I think I'm ticking quite a few of the different boxes, which is great. I'm actually really happy that I'm neurodivergent. I'm quite proud to be, but it does come with its issues. Perioperception is something. So how we feel, right, is really important. And one of the things that I think is vital is that people feel things in different ways. And actually, what might feel nice to someone in terms of touch might feel really uncomfortable for another person. Heavy touch might feel nice for someone, and it's so independent, and it's all about the individual that is in front of you, and learning that actually the one size fits all model doesn't fit anyone, I think is the best thing anyone can do. And actually, it's funny. I'll tell you a story, and sorry to take all the time, but
no, on you
go. I started kind of this side of my professional journey about 2.5, 3 years ago, and I have a really wonderful client called Pat, and she's been with me for over a decade now, and she always champions me and has always really looked after me. I think she's always believed in me, and even when I didn't believe in myself. And she sat there and one day she said, "Oh, you're doing amazing. You're doing great. You're doing so good." And I sat there and I went, "Do you want to know the secret?" And she was like, "No, you can't tell me the secret." And I was like, "I'm going to tell you the secret." And she was like, "No, don't tell me the secret." And in the end, I said to her, "Do you know the truth about what I do is asking people what they want and then facilitating that."
Mm-hmm.
That's the absolute truth, right? If you put the patient or your client as the absolute number one within your work, what you're doing, then you'll find it hard to go wrong with that. But it's about challenging when you're bored. You might be bored at work. You might have done 3 sessions in the morning. You've got one and you're tired and whatever. It's about then that you sit there and go, "No, I need to make this person number one. I need to because ultimately you're the one who booked all those people in the first place. That's your responsibility, not the person lying on the couch." It's about really saying, "I'm going to look after you. I'm going to make this right for you, and I'm going to ask you, and I'm going to talk to you, and I'm going to make sure that there is a line of communication that works for you."
Mm-hmm.
And I think that is, in my opinion, the most important thing.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Very cool. Great tips. We kind of dipped into the kind of what we can do to calm down the senses so there can be better communication. I'm wondering whether you could give us a few more examples for listeners of things you can do when that person, even when you're just contacting them with an initial email or something, is there something you can offer which could make it a little bit more inclusive and possibly decide whether that person books in with you or not? And then also when they come through the door, if you want them to switch their brain off, relax, what could you do with your clinic in order to provide that scenario where they are going to be able to relax more?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Could I take the first one and then Leslie?
Yeah, go for it.
I think it'll be better the second one anyway. So one of the things that I always teach is the sensory overload in particular is there's state 1 and state 2 in terms of systems that we kind of generally run on. One is quite high anxiety level, and this is all on purpose. It's part of species survival, and the other one is more considered and more common. A really good way of saying this is I can't remember which one is stage 1 and which one is stage 2. Sorry, my brain's just gone blank because of the time, but I do remember things. So when you were learning to drive, okay, you were in a state. Let's call it stage 1. No, I think it's stage 2. Right? You have to be in there because when you learn to drive, for those of you that drive, well, the whole point is that you're thinking all the time. So you're like, oh crap, I've got to put the clutch down. I've got to do this, or I've got a signal. I've got to do this. So you're constantly aware and have to be about what you're doing, the surroundings, everything. It's quite a stressful experience, but you need to be in a place that actually is a lot lower in terms of energy to do that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
you can do this like the other. State 2, so that's state 1 is the high one. Sorry, I completely got that wrong. So stage 2 is the calm one. Now, once you learn to drive, all right, and it becomes a bit like walking, you're not really thinking about it because you're completely on autopilot. You enter that other stage. Now, the problem with that is that other stage is actually a heightened level because you have to be heightened. You're driving down the road. If you do something wrong, it could kill someone, or injure someone, or do some pretty horrific things. So you're in that autopilot, but that autopilot is really good at keeping you out of that, but there is a heightened state. Now, if someone's coming to a clinic for the first time, they're going to be in a heightened state. They don't know what is going on, right? They don't know you. They don't know what's going to happen. If they've been to 10 other therapists before, they still don't know how you work, and there will be differences within that. and they're going to have a heightened state. So when we think about that heightened state, we know for a fact that any other kind of sensory input to that is going to tip it over the edge. So you're already ramped up. It's not going to take you a lot to go over and boil over. So the things to watch out for, in my opinion, and to be able to reduce that is saying, I tell you what, why don't I send a picture of my room? My therapy room. All right, so they know what it looks like when they walk in there, so it's not such a shock. Why don't I send a picture of the car park, all right, on the road, and make sure they've got a decent map so that they know that they won't be stressed out to get in there. So getting someone through the door in as a little stress as possible is always going to be so beneficial to you, because some of it, for a neurodivergent person especially, some of the things, smells, what oils you're using, textures, all of those things, right, they're going to impact them. And actually, the best thing in my opinion you can do is make sure that they come in with as little kind of anxiety and a heightened state as possible. Therefore, you will have the best ability to work with them whilst they're there.
Yeah.
That's a really nice idea. I mean, yeah, that's really cool. I like the idea of sending them an image if it's not on your website, and just, getting rid of that shock of arriving somewhere and not knowing what to expect. That's really cool. What else, Leslie? You're very, you adapt your clinic and the ways you run things a lot. What are you consciously doing, or what have you discovered works well?
Well, I mean, I'm quite lucky from that initial people coming to me initially. I'm quite lucky because I live in the foot of some lovely rolling hills. So people tend to, if they're coming to me from somewhere else in Glasgow, they tend to start defragging as soon as they sort of start driving out towards the 𝐂𝐤𝐿s, which is where I am. And I work in a golf club, and I have my own wee garden outside. So the car parking's right outside, and so my whole kind of setup is all very calming immediately anyway when people come. But anybody that knows me in sort of life knows that I'm actually quite jiggity. I'm quite I'm quite bouncy and springy. So I always say that my massage persona is like my alter ego. So when people come in, I'm like, whoa. Hey James, that wasn't what you were drinking earlier on.
No, I know. I had water next to me.
So there's something. Maybe it's the ability of masking. I have no idea, but there's something that when people come in, I'm just able to and I also give myself as this is something that I fortunately can afford to do, and I have to be able to afford to have a half an hour between each client, or I will get in a flap. And if I haven't got a buffer zone of that between each client, then I know, for me as a therapist, I'll burn out because I'll get stressed. So coming into the room and coming and meeting me, and my environment is very low key. I used to be quite clinical in my room, but now it's very low key, more subdued lighting. I've got more natural lighting fitted in it. So I keep all that quite. My music is really low until I establish really low until I establish whether they are cool with that or not. I don't use oils. I don't use smelly oils unless they ask. So I try and keep it all really, really quite kind of low and neutral.
I think one of the interesting things you just said there, and I think that I don't want to challenge you, Leslie. I actually want to support what you said and actually push others to actually work out the way that you do. So you take half an hour in between a session because you want to reset yourself, give yourself the time to be able to decompress and be able to offer the best service to the next person that comes along. Okay. And I would argue that actually you're not doing it for you, but you're also doing it for the person that's coming afterwards, because they deserve the same experience as the person before them. One of the things that I experienced years ago, and I worked maybe for 10 years, I got up at 5:30 in the morning, and I come across very, very extroverted. I'm actually completely the opposite by nature. I'm masked and I'm able to do these things, but they do take a toll. Performing, not so much actually for me. It's more conversations that really, really kind of drain me. If it's in a conversation that I'm not comfortable with. But I remember I used to go to work at about 6:30 in the morning as a coach, and I used to work through till about 12 o'clock in the afternoon, and I would have to go to bed afterwards. And I had a ritual that I would have to sleep. First off, it was 2 hours. Well, I think it was about an hour and a half when I started doing it. And then it was 2 hours. And then actually, before I stopped doing it, it was 3 hours. And I felt really bad though. I had a lot of guilt about it. I had a lot of negative self-talk. I was really kind of not very kind to myself about it. I thought I was lazy, and I kind of beat myself up. And other people echoed it as a joke, and it wasn't healthy for me. But the actual reality of it is that I couldn't handle that. All right, I couldn't deal with it. And actually, I needed to learn better strategies that would work for me as a professional, but also better strategies to keep me healthy. But by proxy, and I think it's really, really important, what you said, oh, I'm lucky and I'm fortunate. And I would say, well, actually, I don't think you are. I think you're being responsible. I think you're being responsible both to yourself and also responsible to the people that you work with, because you're able to give what is required every single time, and that service is going to be better, and you're probably able to retain clients better. You won't have as much churn, so lots of clients, therefore marketing, having to market more and all the rest of it, because when people come to you, they're going to get the same experience time and time again, which is what they're used to and is what they enjoy and what they need, hence why they come back to you. And I think that's really, really important.
Yeah, I suppose it's that old one of look after your wellness or you'll have to look after your illness. For me, I can't afford burnout, so I have to do it, in that way. The other thing that I do as well, I have quite poor recall is one of my things for ADHD, so I have to really write everything in my notes of what position I've had them in, what we've talked about, what we've done. Because the other thing is people will come in and go, oh, can you do the same as you did the last time? And I'm like, oh, hang on a minute. And I'll usually, what do you do? And the other thing I do at the end, because I get quite fall over my words and trip myself up. So the thing that I do at the end is I ask them to reflect back if we've been trying to work together with something. I'll ask them to reflect back to me how I've explained it, in case it's come out like noodle soup, and so that they can tell me that I've explained it properly to them, and then I know. And because the other thing is, if I don't think that I've given somebody a really good session, I'm beating myself up about that. I'm overthinking that shit to the max. If I don't think that I've given somebody the best service that I can,
that's pretty cool. You're so good at what you do.
I'm just, well, you've never had a massage, James?
Nah, but with everything you said, I've sat there and I've gone, when Matt asked the question, I was like, well, I'm going to take the first one, because I know Leslie's going to be doing this in a way that is the appropriate and maximising someone's experience, because you're clearly saying all those things that you're doing. And, one of the really interesting things about being neurodivergent is we are so self-deprecating. And you said, I need to do this because I need half an hour before, and I'm luxury. Actually, I would argue that you're doing it really responsibly, and instead of being able to say to yourself, I'm doing this responsibly, you would rather take it on as a negative to yourself, which we all do. And I do countless with every single thing. After this, I'll come away going, oh crap, what did I say wrong? What did I say that upset someone? Someone's going to phone in, or someone's going to write in and say this guy's like done something, like we all catastrophize in that way. I think it's a real common factor. And when you're in a typical world, how can you not catastrophize? Because it's that experience. But I would say that actually what you do is quite clearly thoughtful and planned and strategic and all those things. And I think that's awesome.
Very cool. Really nicely put, James. If you're doubting yourself, send me an email. I'll pick you up again. Don't worry. I'll let you know. It's fine. Yeah, really nice, really cool stuff. Somehow it's already 8:50, but on the topic of barriers, anything else which either of you have thought of which would be useful sharing with our listeners with regards to barriers to neurodivergent patients and clients in healthcare?
I have one. I have one. And I actually think it's the most important. And I think that the biggest barrier to our community, not in all settings, in my experience, in my opinion, is actually perception. I think the general consensus, the general kind of thought about what autism is or what ADHD is wrong. I think that we are perceived in the wrong way, and I think that until that changes, I think that barriers won't truly be removed. So I think that I've got two actually. There's another one I've just thought of, but sorry. But I think the main thing at the moment is to understand what autism is. Look at it. It's not Rain Man. Don't look at Rain Man and and see the savant. That doesn't mean that there aren't savants. They're amazing as well. They're awesome. Like they're like incredible. But Anthony Hopkins, the actor, is autistic. Alan Turing, who broke the Enigma code, potentially depends on there are different stories coming out. There are so many amazing not so many. If you look in history, if you go back into history and you look at philosophers, you look at scientists, you look at artists, you look at musicians, you look at architects, mathematicians, the whole list of it, you'll find autism everywhere you look. And I would really commend human beings and society to start saying, actually, what is autism? Be inquisitive, sit there and have a read, look at something and educate yourself, because, only by doing that can we actually start moving forward. And the other thing I would say is go and have a conversation with an autistic person. There's the misconception that autistic people aren't emotionally intelligent. Well, that's not true. It's really, really not true. Quite the opposite. Go and have a conversation. Like the people, from my community, and me and people I know, they won't judge you for asking a question. And that's the amazing thing as well. Like, go and say, look, I've heard this. What's the truth? Don't feel that you're going to be judged by the autistic person, but learn to stop judging the autistic person at the same time. Is what I would say. Is go there with an open mind, open eyes, and be okay to be challenged, and be okay to change your opinion and grow as a human being because of it.
I mean, I would say probably, because this is double-edged. When I see everything, like not the all-seeing eye, but what I mean is, if we go out for dinner, I can tell you I can walk out and tell you what the person next to us had on for, what they were wearing, what that waiter was doing, what was happening over there, what was happening over there, what was there, and that's really annoying. But because I have that, when I'm in my treatment room, I'm watching body language all the time and facial expressions, which can go against me, because then I walk away and go, oh my God, they gave me a funny look. Like, oh, they think I'm an absolute plonker. I would never normally use the word plonker, by the way.
I love that.
I'm live. So I watch all the time, and quite often, like, people will say, if they're on the table and I'll say something, they'll go, how did you pick that up? And it's because I'm watching the body language all of the time, or any kind of like change of, facial expressions or anything like that.
Pattern recognition. It's a gift that you have, and which is why, again, I'm going to say you're awesome at what you do. I'm going to have to come all the way up the other end of the country.
This is what? This is stop bigging me up. I can't cope.
That's another thing as well. Not accepting compliments. I'm terrible at it. So no one compliments me.
Somebody get me a whiskey.
What was out of interest? What was the second one you were going to mention, James? You said there was two.
Yeah, so I think one really big thing is there's a lot of guilt from every community, and lots of trauma and everything else. One of the things I would say for people that are working with the community is, and I think this is really, really, really important, is you need to do some work to work with our community. All right, plain and simple. You need to understand how we communicate a bit better. If you're not part of the community, you need to understand some of our problems and some of the barriers and some of the things that will not allow us to have a positive experience. But, and this is the most important thing, if you don't want to do that, all right, I don't take it don't say that you're a bad person for not wanting to. All right, please take the guilt away. All right, I see lots of people, well-meaning, and I really mean this. They are decent human beings. They are very well-meaning, and they're trying to do something because they know it's the right. They feel it's the right thing to do. All right, but actually, they may not have the energy to do the research. They may not have the energy to look at doing it appropriately, and we're in a real kind of quandary with this, because if you don't put the effort in that is needed, what actually ends up happening is that you end up giving a sub-service to that person, all right, or an uncomfortable experience to that person. And actually, the reality of that is, if you've got someone, and if I'm sure someone's already spoken about, the likelihood of mental health. I think it's something like, 6 out of 10 people that are autistic will think about suicide or are contemplating it at some point. I think 3 out of 10 will have actually acted on those thoughts. All right, these are all around their experience. Okay, the experience is really, really key. And actually, if you don't have the energy to do what is needed and to what is appropriate, all right, to remove the barriers, first off, don't beat yourself up for it. Okay, that's okay. You might have a hell of a lot going on in your life. All right, you might be a busy person and you've got your own stresses and everything else, and you don't have that ability to dedicate that to that. And I don't judge you for that at all. And I don't have any malice or anger or negative feeling about the fact that you don't have that, because why would I? You don't have it. All right, and then that's common as well. Most people don't realize that they're like, oh, I should be doing this. And it's like, do it when you've got the patience. Do it when you've got the space. Do it when you can do it properly, because that's the right time to do it. And if you don't, and you do it when you don't have the space to understand the community properly, what you're doing is potentially, if they have a bad experience with you, which they probably won't tell you, in some cases they won't know why at the time, and it's something that they'll discover later on when they're sat there digesting and looking back. But you may have stopped them from accessing services. And actually, the real cost of them not being able to access a service might be a service that they desperately need. And the impact on that person is gigantic. So don't feel guilty if you don't have the space, because whilst you might not have the space now, maybe in 6 months' time you do, maybe in a year you do, maybe you go, actually, this isn't for me, but that's okay. Like, I just want to take the guilt away from people, and actually make sure that people are doing things for the right reasons and the services they're providing are appropriate for the people that are receiving it.
That's good. Very valid point. Excellent. Right, it's 3 minutes to 9. So we're going to have to wrap things up. I think hopefully there's a few ideas there on how to reduce some of the barriers which may be presented to your clients unknowingly. Like we've all said, you're not doing it on purpose. And ultimately, just to reiterate, I think what we said last week or the week before, the thing about most healthcare providers, I think particularly if you're getting a hands on somebody, is you do it for pretty altruistic reasons. You want to kind of help others. So hopefully the kind of suggestions we've made should come quite naturally. It's just a case of, I never thought of that. I never thought of maybe having dimming lights. Oh, that was one thing I had to say, actually. Just realised it.
You and your lights.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I mean, it's a bit like all me now, but sort out your lights. I mean, I've had to work in some clinics where I've just told them I'm not working this room because you've just got one light, which is like, I don't know, just bright, shatter everything in my eyeballs, or darkness. Have you ever thought of somewhere in the middle? And it's just, that room was just ridiculous. And I think the trouble is, some people like it. Some people think it's more clinical, that white light. They think it's almost like a dentist where it's shining down at you. But I'm pretty sure, I mean, it would be a great test for most neurodivergent people. Anyone who says, please, can you dim those lights a little bit or put it off, is a good sign. But I think for most people, you'd be surprised that your interpretation of this looks really professional and clean and white, get a dimmer or get some lights if you're not doing it already.
Downlighting is the one. So for most of the community, they find downlighting is better. And when I mean downlighting, it's like wall-mounted stuff. So actually, they've got like a case on the top of it so that it's dispersing it downwards. And that way, in terms of sensory, that's normally quite positive for people.
It's kind of
no big light on.
Not like, if you think it looks a bit like a light that kills flies, well, that kind of tells you something. If it's that kind of colour, that's what's happening to people's minds, where there's total lines underneath it and stare upwards and then relax, you relaxed. But anyway, I just thought I'd chuck that in. But yeah, hopefully there's lots of things you can do there. I hope it's been useful for you. And as always, keep the conversation going. If you've got any ideas or comments, probably the best place is go to YouTube and just put something in the comments there. So people are starting to do that now to continue the conversation, because it's not the end of this conversation now, because it's a new episode. So use YouTube. We're going to be back next week, just so you know, for the last episode. Last episode. And that's going to be part 4. Which is going to be, it's entitled The Neurodivergent Therapist. So it's really going to be particularly for people who are either identify as a neurodivergent therapist, if you're either diagnosed or not. And it's going to be a chance for you guys to actually come along and listen to some great experts in that field, people who look after professionals who are neurodivergent. We're going to have Sarah Mihag, who's going to be along, who's a wonderful person. I really encourage you to come and listen to her directly and ask questions. She's an occupational therapist and neurodivergent accessibility and inclusion consultant at Mood Lifter. Also, Cassandra Clemens is going to be back. And also Benjamin Mace Crossley is going to be back from part 1. So I do encourage you to come along live for that. And also on that theme, if you are neurodivergent MSK clinician, then do join the Facebook group. There's so many great conversations happening in there now. It would be lovely to see you there. Which means all I need to do now is thank the people who joined us live. Thank you much for your questions and sharing. If you are listening to this podcast and you have enjoyed the episode, then do please do us the pleasure, the show and gratitude of just leaving a rating or review. I know it takes a minute, but it makes such a difference. Not to make us money or anything. It's just so that if somebody puts into Google neurodivergency for therapists, then this episode will come up. It's as simple as that. Every rating you leave and review, it means that the great word of our guests appears higher in Google results, which is one great way of kind of trying to break down some of these barriers, is just helping that dissemination of quality information, which is what we'd like to hopefully do with these podcasts. So thank you very much again to my guest, James Dewar Haggett. Thanks, mate. Thank you very much.
Yes, guys. Thank you for hearing me. Hearing me.
Hearing is the word. I was hearing. I wasn't listening. I was hearing.
The sad thing is, I'm sitting there going, I really need a wee right now when I'm sitting there going.
Well, in that case, and also thank you, Leslie Campbell, for joining us. Really appreciate both of your time. If you are around next Tuesday at, I can't believe you just said that loud. Yes, I can believe it. At 9 o'clock, 8 o'clock on YouTube. It'd be a pleasure to see you. If you can join us live, listen to the podcast. Otherwise, keep listening, and we will see you very soon in part 4. So take care of each other, and we'll see you soon. Bye-bye.
Bye.